Welcome to today's episode of Success Matters. My guest today is an extraordinary person, James Anderson, who's been called the UK's kindest plumber. There's a really good reason why. James is one person who is affecting and changing the lives of thousands of people. He's got a heart of gold, and not only does he fix broken boilers and broken pipes, he fixes people's broken spirits too. James lost his son at the age of 16 weeks. At that point in time, he decided that he was going to be the best person he can. And he admits in his podcast episode that for a little while, he'd kind of put that to the back of his mind, which is understandable. When you're grieving, especially the loss of a young child, it can be difficult to remind yourself that you'd made this promise. But then one day, James went to visit an elderly person who's had plumbing problems, had a plumber come in, and they had blocked the pipe work and done something with the valve that was making it click. And it was at that point in time that James had that recognition that actually, this is what I can do to help people. So not only did he go about fixing this person's plumbing, he also contacted the company, made sure that that company came and rectified the faults that this other plumber had left behind, and set about helping others. James set up a charity called depher.co.uk. That's DEPHER. And through that, and with a team of thousands of others, he's able to help people. He's not only fixing people's broken plumbing, but he's also expanded to help people with their energy bills, to set up a food bank, and also get food delivery sent all around the UK in partnership with a supermarket. James's story is extraordinary. He's so humble as well. I was deeply moved by James's story of the power of empathy and the extraordinary impact one person can have on the lives of so many people. I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I enjoyed listening to James's story. James, thank you very much for joining Success Matters. As you know, the podcast series is about success and what success means to different people. I've been following you on Twitter primarily for quite some time, and the stories that you put forward of elderly people who are left without any heating or hot water, or plumbers who come along and quote them thousands of pounds for work that should be only, 100 quid or something like that. Plus the food bank work that you're doing. I really wanted to get the opportunity to speak to you. So I'm really pleased that you've joined this podcast. I suppose if we start with where your story began, and how you came to become known as Britain's kindest plumber and doing all of this work that you're doing for people.
Mate, I'll be quite honest with you. If you went back prior to 2013, I definitely wasn't Britain's kindest plumber.
Okay.
I was just a plumber that wanted to earn his money and buy the nice things and didn't care about anybody else.
Right.
And just done what I had to do to survive, go to work, and then away. And then in 2013, me and the wife, we lost our son. Everybody was 16 months old, and it was at that point in time that I realised there's more important things in life. So I made William a promise, and I told him, listen, I'm going to be the man that I hope and pray that you would have been if you were allowed to live. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it in your place, in your stead, instead of, because I know you, God. And from 2013 to 2017, it was a very dark era, because I couldn't, even though I thought I was strong enough to accept it and understand why it happened, I couldn't understand, and I was still angry. And the day we went into the hospital and we decided with the doctors to tear the machine off, that was keeping William alive.
Right.
I was in the room, and when we walked in the room after the conversation, William, 16-week-old baby, lying there, opened his eyes like any person would, massively. And I looked right at him, and I don't know whether that was, thank you for doing this, or please don't. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
And that haunted me. That haunted me for years. And in 2017, I went to a property of an elderly gentleman in a bed with a hoist. He was disabled. He had a bald head. He had no hair. But it was like a much bigger version of William. Mm-hmm. William was in his bed, And it knocked me back a little bit, but I thought, okay, I'll do what I'm here to do. So we done the quote. Not the quote, we looked at the way that this other gentleman quoted. And they charged, this plumber company charged the gentleman £170 to look at the system because the gentleman thought there was a problem with his boiler. Now, this plumber put a magazine in the tank to stop the water from going through into the cylinder to block it. So there was no hot water coming off the taps. And he manipulated the radiator to make a clicking noise on the TRV.
Right.
To make the gentleman believe that he needed a new boiler and then give him a quote for £5,500. And it was that I looked at. In 45 minutes it took me to find it because it was a very difficult job.
Mm-hmm.
But I realised that when going back through the pipes, there was no water come out. But there's something wrong with the tank. There must be something in the tank stopping it. And that's when I put my hand in and pull a magazine out. Now, the most significant find in this job, it wasn't that the guy had tried to manipulate this gentleman into £5,500 that he didn't have to pay. It was the point that he used an installer magazine in the tank. Now, an installer magazine is what we get as gas engineers.
Right.
Say, you can't get them as the public. You can't buy them in the shop. You can't order them. Only if you're a registered gas safe engineer do you get the installer magazine.
Okay.
And he isn't stupid enough to put his magazine in the tank to make the gentleman believe he needed a boiler.
Mm-hmm.
So I rang up the company. They denied it. Oh no, we don't do that. Our engineers don't do that. I said, that's fine. I've got the magazine here. There's a barcode on it. That barcode is easily scanned. We will then find out where it's coming from. So it's either two places. Either one, the engineer's address, or number two, your address. If it's your address, you're banked to right. If it's the engineer's address, and he works for you, he's employed by you, you're banked to right.
Right.
So I'll give you till tomorrow morning to decide what you're going to do. So the managing director rang me and he was a little bit arrogant, this, that, and that. And I said, listen, I'm not here for an argument. I'm here to help the gentleman. Said, but one thing I will let you know, the gentleman's now got heating on water and a radiator that doesn't make a clicking noise. Said, but it doesn't remove the fact that this is being done anyway prior to that. So within the hour, I got a phone call back from some lady. Oh, we're going to go back out tomorrow and we're going to deal with it. The next morning, 2 vans, 4 engineers, a brand new boiler for free, full combi conversion, and £1,000 cash in the gentleman's hands.
Right.
Compensation for what this plumber had done. And I got told the plumber was sacked as well, which was a brilliant outcome. And I was like, yeah, wow, that's excellent. And that was the day I sat down and I decided, right, that's got to have been something connected somewhere with little Michael William saying, come on, Dad, we need to deal with this, Dad. You made that promise. Now it's time to deliver on that promise. And here we are now, nothing years later, and we're going strong.
Wow. That's a very, well, where do I even begin with this? When you had to face that decision to switch off Williams beans, that must have been the toughest decision you've ever had to make. Yeah, it did. Something that if you sat there and read it in a book, or if you've seen it on a film, or in the movies, you go, wow, that's horrible. But to actually face it in real life and do it, it's the hardest thing that I ever thought I'd ever have to do. And I do know since then and now, another thing is that it was definitely the right thing to do. Because I went to a property of a lady not too long ago, only a couple of years ago. And I didn't know this lady, didn't know the gentleman. I walked in, we done the boiler, we're putting the boiler in the kitchen. There was actually an engineer called Getty from South African ex-rugby player that was fitting the boiler for me as a subcontractor. Right.
And he turned around and said, the lady's in the back kitchen, she wants to see you. So I thought, I don't know, she wants to see you. So I thought, there we go, what's going on, what's gone wrong? So I went in the kitchen, she just spoke to me and said, you're James, aren't you? And I went, yeah. So William said, it's fine, you've done the right thing. He said, thank you. And that was as he got coached with all down my van. I'm like, where did that go? So
yeah, where did that come from?
Yeah, I said, nobody's told me. Said, Williams told me.
Wow.
And then I found out after the fact he was a well-known, really, really good psychic.
Okay.
He's tapped into stuff like that. And the relief and the lift, the breath, and that black shadow just disappeared.
Yeah.
From me, that I was like, oh my God, what's going on? But it helped me. It helped me massively because I could then concentrate on other stuff. No, I was doing it not just for the people, not just for the communities, but I was doing it in his name as well. And he was happy and he was proud of it. So yeah, I give me a real good push now.
Wow. That's I mean, I've got tears in my eyes from your story here, James, because, as we discussed, we lost our very first child as stillborn, and actually losing a child at birth is different to having had that child for 16 weeks and building that bond and all of that. So
it's still a lot. It's still a lot, regardless whether you cuddle that baby when you hold the baby, whether you sing to the baby, whether you do or don't. That child is still your child, still a creation from love between you and your partner, and it's like it doesn't matter. It's still a loss, and it still hits you there.
So when you went to visit this, in 2017, and you saw this plumber had put a magazine in the tank that was stopping the water flow, had done something with a thermostatic radiator valve that was making it click. Did you see red? Were you really angry, or how did you feel when you saw that?
I was confused. I was confused, and I was confused because I was like, well, why is this happened? Why you done it? For what reason? I mean, I understood prior to that day that you do get tradesmen from every trade in the country. There's just have to be plumbing and heating. Sometimes the prices are high. Sometimes they've got different running costs depending where they live in the country. So if you go to London, it's twice the amount. And I got confused. I was like, well, why charge £170 to manipulate the system to then give a quote for 5,500 for the boiler that you knew in the beginning he didn't need? What's so drastic in your life? What's so wrong?
Right.
To make you do that? But then to find out that it wasn't just a normal single self-employed engineer, which you can understand, even though not agree, that some self-employed people have got massive bills and they overcharge to cover the cost of their lifestyle. But to do it in the name of a company who more than likely has a lot of work coming in because it's a company, are you trying to impress the boss? Are you trying to impress somebody in the company? Have you just started? Are you trying to make a name for yourself? But at what cost or what suffering do you have to make yourself look good? The suffering of an elderly and disabled person in a bed, or the suffering of someone who could be on low income or single parents or have disabilities that are hidden and you can't see. What drives these people to think it's okay to do that? So I was disappointed and I was confused after the fact of me finding out all the information. I was angry. I was angry because this young man manipulated somebody so vulnerable into a situation where they believed what he said. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people look at plumbing and heating engineers as in, my life is in your hands. My safety lies with you. If you do something wrong with the plumbing or the heating or the gas, and it goes terribly wrong, I could die of a gas leak, of a gas explosion, carbon monoxide, water coming out of a pipe that's not sealed properly and be chucked in electric. There's many dangers that go along with plumbing and heating. If you didn't have plumbing, you wouldn't have water. If you didn't have water, you wouldn't be able to survive without it. You wouldn't be able to survive on the sanitary side of it. So there's a law that people look at and rely on for someone to just do that. So yeah, and it was frustrating in the end, very angry in the end, but at the beginning, confusion.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the tradespeople, we always have to kind of deal with a pinch of salt, right? And oftentimes people look for either the cheapest or they don't go on a recommendation, and they end up with these cowboys. Really, I suppose.
It's all
describe some of them.
Yeah, it's affordability, and the affordability side of it does unfortunately land on the doorstep of government, because, and this is not trying to make this podcast political in any which way or form, is that if the government looked at the cost of living, the way people survive and what they have to pay to a country that is a privatisation, that's all we are. Well, we're not a United Kingdom anymore, we're privatised economy. That's why I see it. So these companies who supply what you need to survive in your home can charge what they like, how they like, when they like, and there's no repercussions. Now, when you've got that, the cost of living so high, but the cost of income so low, or to a level that is not affordable towards the cost of living, then you do get these people doing that, where they go, well, okay, I might go to him down the road who says he's qualified, but I'd rather pay him £20 than pay him £80. But if you're paying the 20, you're putting your life at risk. If you pay the 80, you're getting a safe service because it's a registered, reputable company. But then that takes away your money that you need to get your other resource. And if you've got children or you've got elderly relatives living with you and you can't afford to get that repair done or that service or whatever it may be done that you need doing in your property, then you're going to skimp and strafe and you're going to be like, well, okay, do I pick that heating or eating or do I pick that? You know what I mean? And people are put in this country are pushed into that choice when they shouldn't be. So, it's a massive, massive problem that goes back to those in power. It does, unfortunately.
And your charity is called DEPHER, right? DEPHER. What does that stand for?
It's a disabled and elderly plumbing and heating emergency response.
Right. Okay. And I was reading some news articles over the weekend with regards to the numbers of people and the amount that you're doing. I mean, you've grown massively, right? And how many people would you say you're helping out on a weekly basis with regards to the plumbing? And we'll talk about some of the other stuff you're doing as well in a moment.
On the plumbing side, it's a two-sided coin. Okay. So in the winter and the spring, it reduces to, I'd say, 30 a week, maybe.
Right.
Maybe a little bit more. During the winter, a completely different ballgame. It could be 100 to 120 a week.
Right.
Depending on the severity of the summer, of the winter. And in some cases, it could be 200 to 300 a week, depending again on the severity. But now that we're national and we've got 532 subcontractors all over the UK, that number's going to double or even triple if we get a bad winter this year.
Right.
But then, if it's a free job that we're doing, it's going to cost us, so we need to continue raising money. If it's a subsided one where we knock money off, we hopefully will make enough money to cover the cost of it all.
Right.
But if it's a paid job, which is a different scenario, then we can take the money from that we earn, and that money can then be used for the fleet up that we do, or the fleet repairs, the borders. So it works, even though realistically on a business plan, if you look at it on a piece of paper, it doesn't work. On a piece of paper, it's a failure.
Yeah.
But realistically in action, if you do it the right way, the way I've done it, it works, because since 2018 when I registered, but 2017 when I started it, since then we were £18,000 in debt when we first started it. And since then and now, we own everything. We own all the vehicles, we own all the stock, everything that we've got, we own. We rent 2 buildings out. We are sustained happily enough, and we've got enough money in the bank to last us another year happily without even having to worry about it. So to go from there to now, with also spending so much money, giving so much away in the past, it's a good plan. It's good the way I've done it. Even though some people can't understand it, it's really good. It's really clever. A lot of people are saying really clever.
Yeah.
I hope it is.
Yeah, and you also don't take away from this, right? Then
I don't. No. Before we hit the couple of days of the pandemic, I was taking home, I don't know, £189 a week. I was taking home because I thought that's all I need. I don't need these big CEO kind of cracking things that people get. I don't agree with that at all. And I was happy with that. We were making a little bit of money. We were making money on jobs that we were doing that and pay for. We were giving free stuff away, doing free jobs. But then the pandemic hit. So then I decided, okay, well, all pay rises are frozen. So I froze them. My wages were frozen. So I froze my wage. I knocked my wage down to, I think it was £101 a week during the pandemic. Halfway during the pandemic, I decided to stop it because donations were falling massively. And we were getting just enough working to survive. So I know at one point, I think we only had about £23,000 left in the bank.
Right.
And we had staff and everything in the shop. And I'm like, sugar, what's going on here? I need to deal with this. So I got my wage, reduced everything down, no pay rises. And we managed to get through the pandemic with donations that were tripling in, and then obviously money from jobs and on a fundraising shop. But then we went massively viral again. Hugh Grant donated to us, and other celebs donated to us, and that boosted us massively.
Right.
And then we got hundreds of thousands of pounds donated and continuously coming in all the time. And even now, I mean, we've got over £500,000 in the bank, what we haven't used yet. But that's the running cost for the next 12 months.
Right.
More. Well, that's why I like to make sure it's there. So we can then say to people, listen, we're going to continue. We're not going to just stop. I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, we've only got £10,000 left and pull on the plug, because that would leave a lot of people in a crap. So I make sure that the fundraising continues and we get the money in the bank and we keep it there. So we know that if we hit a bad winter, or if we an influx of people that need boilers or food or gas or electric, we know we've got the money to support them people by having that in the bank. That's the way I do business. And even now, man, I can happily take a wage if I wanted to. I could take any wage I wanted. I can choose what I take. But I choose not. I choose nil. And the reason I choose nil is because my choice of my money goes to the people that need it. Because I've got a wife. She's a lovely woman. She's my rock. We've got no mortgage. We own the house. We've got no debt because my wife is unbelievably good with money. My wife, long story short, she was walking to the shop many years ago, and a car hit her at 80 miles an hour and squashed over the lamppost. Her spine, severed her nerves, broke her ankles, opened the sternum. She nearly died. She's nearly in a wheelchair. She's got a cyst on her spine. She has to use stuff to go to the toilet, this, that, and the other. And she got a massive payout. So she's financially capable of looking after us as a family, looking after me as a husband. So if I say to her, which she did, I don't want to take a wage because I think the money needs to go somewhere else, she said, yeah, that's fine. That's not a problem at all. We'll support each other. Simple. So the setup is a really good setup because I don't have to pay a mortgage. I don't have to give the wife money every week. Yeah. That money that I save can go elsewhere.
Right. And you touched on something earlier there, which I'd like to explore. You mentioned food and paying gas and electric. So having done this plumbing work, you've also expanded now the activities of your charity to supporting people with food banks and food delivery.
We do, yes. We actually get £40,000 a year from the Next Energy Foundation. Now, the Next Energy Foundation, they give us that money specifically so we can support people around the UK with food, gas and electric from them to us. So we do that. We done it last year. It was very successful. We reached every town and every city in the UK and Ireland, and they said, well, we want you to do it again, another 40. They give us another 40, we continue doing that. So how we do that, people come to us, they email us, I need support with ABC. We then send them a generic email asking them for proof, make sure they are who they are, make sure they are in debt, make sure they are in poverty, because we don't want to be giving supplies or money to people who've got it. This money's for people who haven't got it. Okay. And you do get some people that are in society that are greedy and they want to spend their money on a night out or a new car, so they'll get support off somebody else with food, gas and electric so they can live a different lifestyle. So we go through that situation with them and then we support them. So we put the money for the gas and electric in the bank. They then send us the receipt for that. If they don't send us the receipt, we tell them they will never get help again. So everybody does, because they know that they may need us again in the future. We then go on the Adnet website. We've got an account on there. You put in their address and their postcode. It'll come up on the screen. We'll order them the shop that they need. So we'll check for allergies and stuff like that. We'll do a shop for them and their family. We'll pay for it and then we'll press buy. And then as they deliver it to them. So it could be, we'll sit here today, we'll order food for someone in London, they'll get it tomorrow morning, delivered by us down, we'll pay the bill for that.
Right.
That's how we do the national food delivery. And then locally in Lancashire, we have a food drive where we spend roughly around about £15,000 to £16,000 a month on food, chop it up, but we do make money back. I mean, don't make a lot, but we make some. How it works, I can go out and spend today £5,000 on food. Okay, I'll go over, we'll stock the shelves, stock the storeroom, and then people can come in and they can pick any 14 items for £6. So they're getting around £30 to £35 or sometimes £40 worth of food.
Right.
£6 on that. That gives us a little bit of money back so we can carry on getting more. But it also gives them a lot of value because the money that they're saving on the food that they get can then be used to top up the gas and electric.
Right.
Then reduces the bill that way. So that's how we work that in it.
Oh, okay. So it's a set price of £6. Pick any 14 items from what we have on the shelf, and it could be anything, whatever they feel they need at the time for that.
Yeah. And we have fresh fruit, we have fresh vegetables, we have tins, we have dried stuff, we have washing up liquid, washing powders, the detergents. We have everything that you need. It's not just about giving you one meal, it's about giving you enough meals, and also the ability to clean up and do the dishes and do your washing and do your clothing. Because sometimes you can go on, detergents can be £4 or £5.
Yeah.
Nut powder can be £5 or £6. And we don't look at it we need to make sure that we class that as 2 items or 3 items or 4 items, like some places do. You just class that as an item that you need it with your 14 items.
That's really clever idea, actually, and I think it's a good way of balancing people's needs and their affordability for those things that are essential for them. So James, as you know, this podcast series is called Success Matters. I mean, you've been doing a lot for charity, and I maybe kind of can guess what your answer might look like, but what does success mean to you?
Success to me is the smile on your face.
Right.
That's it, and the food in your belly. That's it. To me, personally, it is what you receive from it that is the most. Because one man's success is only measured by another man's happiness. And I've always thought it that way.
That's a really powerful statement. One man's success is only measured by another person's happiness. It's that is very powerful indeed. And that's a very selfless viewpoint as well, right? Because a lot of people look at success as a selfish kind of thing, but actually helping others is actually far more beneficial to people.
It's more rewarding, a lot more rewarding.
No, thank you for that. And I ask, as part of my podcast series, I ask people, my guests, to ask a question for my next guest. My last guest asked me to ask you this question, which is,
what will their legacy be?
My legacy will be death continues forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it will never stop, it'll never wane, it'll never wilter, but it will always be there for the people. And it will belong to the people, because I've already put in place and set things like that when I do eventually either retire or go up there, I hope, and wherever I go. Death will belong to the people, because the day that happens is the day every single person in the United Kingdom receives one credit or one share from death. So death belongs to everybody, so everybody can access it and get that support that they need. But that's already set in stone, that's already being done by solicitor.
Okay, all right. So you do have a view of what your legacy will be, which is good. And I suppose in many ways, your legacy is already created with all the work you've done so far in helping people who are much more vulnerable and much less, I suppose, what's the right word? Not capable, but haven't got the same resources or access to resources that we have, in our normal day-to-day lives. That's great.
But I must say that when the work of death is completed and done, it's not just me. I'm just the person that sits here that says, I created death, which I did. I'm the father of death. But the true strength and the true community support and support of everybody is the staff.
Right.
People that come to the office, it's the people that work in the office, it's the people that share the posts, it's the people that support us with donations, it's the people that get rid of the inhibitions and get rid of the stigma and ring us and ask us to help and say, can you please help? Because a lot of these people have been told or led to believe that you're not allowed to ask to help, that it's stigma, that it's a problem in society, that you're supposed to just get on with it, okay? That's the old United Kingdom, that's the old Britain, that's the old English. We're now in a new era of a massive, beautiful, multicultural country with so much colour and beauty and religion, and we're looking at we're on the beginning steps of something that's going to be beautiful in the future. So it should be for everybody. Actually,
that's great philosophy that you've got there, James. Do you have a question for my next guest?
If you could change anything that you think is going to happen in the future, what would that thing be?
And do you have thought for yourself of what that thing you could change in the future might be?
That we all belong to a united planet. We're not countries separated by borders,
Right.
or by laws, or by religions. We're all one people living on one rock.
And on that point, actually, because I had noticed that, like on Twitter, like I said, I've been following you for a long time. Sometimes the worst parts of the human race do come out, and you get trolled quite a lot by people on Twitter. How do you handle that?
Look, funny you should say that, because this weekend just gone, I learned a big lesson.
Okay.
Because I sat down and I actually looked inside my own mortality, my own soul.
All right.
And when you are faced with hate and evilness, or blackness, as they call it, eventually, if you keep on fighting that, you become that. So you become what you are fighting against. So you become bitter. You become hateful against the people who are bitter and hateful against you. So then you are being turned into something you are not. So my answer to that is, yes, you may make mistakes in life. You may walk along a path and fall over now and again. But it's all about getting yourself back up, brushing yourself off, and continuing walking. But when someone throws something at you that is hateful, that is hurtful, that is totally against the way you've been brought up or you believe, don't fight it with hate. Fight it with love, because that's the only way you're going to win. Because then that love stays in you, and you become a better person for everybody around you, not just the people who are hateful against you.
It must be difficult to do, though, if you're getting someone who's being particularly hateful. So do you just kind of like take a step back and take a deep breath and say, actually, because the knee-jerk reaction would be potentially to fire back at that person, right? And want to blast at them. But actually, how do you stop yourself from doing that?
Because, I mean, it goes back to the days of the Bible, the days of Jesus, where Jesus said that he without sin cast the first stone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm nowhere near a very religious person. I don't go to church every single day. I don't go to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
My church is in here. My church is in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And my beliefs are in my mind. And I do sit there and I do have my own conversations with whoever the Lord may be.
Right.
And sometimes you've got to take that down and sit back and go, do you know what, Lord? I'm faced with this. This is the issue I'm facing. This is what I'm going through. What do I do? How do I handle this? How do I react to this? And then you just stop and sit and think very silently, very quietly. And usually the answer is in your own mind straight away.
Yeah.
Without any kind of intervention from anywhere. But it just takes that one moment of peace within you to realise, okay, this is the best way of handling it. Now, handling hate with hate creates hate.
Right, yeah.
Handling hate with love creates, in my opinion, a no man's land. Let's say. So you've got the battle between good and evil. And then in the middle of that battle between good and evil, you've got no man's land. But that gives you time and the other time to sit back and think, well, okay, what's happening here? How is this happening? What is going on? And hopefully the people that are hating on you, hopefully they go, okay, I can now see, I can now hear, I can now have a different opinion on it. And sometimes it does work. I have seen it work. I've been there and then I've sat there and watched and listened. I'm like, wow, this has changed me. I had one gentleman a while ago who was a real hater of not me, of other people. I just sat down and I talked to him and I said, listen, this is the way you didn't think it would be. And by the time I'd finished, it took a while, don't get me wrong. He now works in a veterans place down the corner from me, and he's loving and he's caring and he sees life completely different. Sometimes you've got to do that. Sometimes you've got to push for that. Because, like you say, if we all hated because we're hated, then the world will be full of hate, and you can't live in a world full of hate because eventually they'll all crumble down on you.
It's been a fascinating conversation, James, and you've got some very deep insights into life, the human mind, and basically, how we operate as people. Unfortunately, we're at the top of our time now, and thank you very much for taking part in.
Well, thank you. It's really appreciated.
I'm sure people will be very inspired by this conversation. So
I hope it helps people, I really do, and I hope it supports people, I really do.
if you'd like to find out more about how you can find your success, contact me at info@successmatterscoaching.com. That's info@successmatterscoaching.com.